Welcome to the channel, and this is another part of my decade build series. If you haven't seen the other parts, I'll provide a link down below where you can see the rest of them in order. There is quite a lot, so feel free to take your time. We are in the late 1980s, and I wanted to show you some pictures I referenced. On the left, you can see a perfect example of a typical kitchen in this style, as well as the house on the right. And yeah, those couches though, and of course the Hollywood lights and the floral wallpaper. So this particular home is in the Southwestern style. I was really inspired by 1980s homes in Phoenix, Arizona especially. And yeah, so the Southwest style isn't really as well known as the, modern vaporwave type of style. But that style was actually more for people who had more money. So this type of home is more for the family and, maybe it's middle class, something like that. But, yeah, so the Southwestern home really thrived on shades of like turquoise, peach, pinks, and mauve. And during this time, Southwestern home decor spread across the US like crazy. And I can attest to this because in the early 90s, a lot of my family actually had like pink and blue furniture and like Southwestern motifs like painted plates. Just things that kind of carried over from the 70s, or at least some things. Native American motifs on textiles and stair-stepped edges on furniture usually were involved in home decor at this time. Traditional decor is what most people grow up with in the 80s. While it would have been awesome to live in high-rise New York City with, a room full of new 80s modern pieces, the majority of families integrated newer styles with items they already had, such as antiques, and floral fabrics upon floral fabrics. And a lot of my family had a lot of floral everywhere too, and a lot of fake plants, which you'll see. So the Southwestern style isn't very new. I mean, it's been around for a really long time. The Spanish were the first contemporary Europeans to successfully settle in the American Southwest, making Spanish style hugely influential in the region even today. And traditional Spanish style adobe homes are still being built in these areas. And even though every modern American architectural element is available to home builders in the region, a lot of people will go for more old-fashioned adobe or Southwestern style homes that have like a orangey terracotta or a stucco, because it keeps the home more cool. And that's the reason why for that. And the interiors are also done in like a white stucco with molded edges and little nooks. And before the Spanish came along, Native Americans were the only people in that area. And with the Navajo tribe being the most influential when it comes to style, the Navajo have a long history of textile craft, passing down their iconic weaving and tradition through hundreds of years, which also influenced this style. There is absolutely no question at all that during the 80s, design with lots of color got an A+ from a lot of people, but pastels were equally as big as brights, and interiors with soft pink walls and pastel throw pillows, a lot of pillows, basically at this time, that type of style had taken over, especially for middle class, like I was saying. So as far as like pop culture and like what was going on at the time, the global internet actually took shape in academia by the second half of the 1980s, as well as many other computer networks of both academic and commercial use, such as Usenet, FidoNet, and the bulletin board system were also a part of that. And by 1989, the internet and the networks linked to it were a global system with extensive trans-oceanic satellite links and nodes in most rich countries. Based on earlier work from the 1980s onwards, this guy named Tim Berners-Lee formalized the concept of the World Wide Web by 1989, so that's pretty cool. Madonna and Whitney Houston are regarded by many as the most groundbreaking female artists of the decade. Hard rock, heavy metal, and glam metal became some of the most dominant music genres of this decade, and it peaked with the arrival of bands like Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, and Poison. By 1989, the hip-hop scene had evolved too, and that gained recognition and exhibited a stronger influence on the music industry. And this time period is also considered part of the golden age of hip-hop. The Beastie Boys, Public Enemy, Run DMC are a few that gained popularity in the late 80s, and the 1980s also saw the birth of grunge with the arrival of bands like Nirvana and Alice in Chains, who actually formed in 1987 but didn't release their first album until 3 years later or something like that. And then the 1980s also saw the return of studio-driven films coming from filmmaker-driven New Hollywood era of the 1970s. And the period was when high-concept films gained popularity, where movies were to be easily marketable and understandable, and therefore they had to be short cinematic plots that could be summarized in 1 or 2 sentences. This type of modern Hollywood blockbuster is the most popular film format from the 80s. The 80s also was prominent for several popular cartoons such as The Smurfs, Thundercats, Transformers, Inspector Gadget, Muppet Babies, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, DuckTales, Garfield and Friends, and Beetlejuice, which I loved. I loved all of those, even though I was a 90s baby. I watched like nearly all of them. So as far as like gaming goes, the NES dominated the American and Japanese gaming market until the rise of the next generation of consoles in the early 90s, causing some to call this time the Nintendo era. Sega released its 16-bit console, the Mega Drive or Genesis, in 1988, in Japan and in North America in 1989. In 1989, Nintendo released the Game Boy, which was basically a monochrome handheld console. So yeah, guys, just working on the backyard here. I thought it'd be appropriate to have a pool, and I remember like going to my friend's house and going to my friend's house, and she had a backyard that was similar to this, and her house was similar to this as well. So I kind of wanted to make a roundish pool, or like an oval looking pool. So that's what I was trying to go for. I know it looks kind of weird, but it's the best we can do with The Sims at this point, because we can't do round pools, unfortunately. But yeah, so just working on the backyard. I wanted to have, an eating area, maybe like an empty cooler in the back, and a basketball hoop in the front, working on the garage now. It would have been pretty much a like household requirement at this point to have a 2-car garage. Probably since the late 70s, and it carried on through the 80s up until today. 2-car garage is pretty standard at this point. And so I was just trying to, even though the room itself isn't functional, and you could probably, if you wanted to, just change it to maybe 2 extra rooms, or a large extra room, or a playroom, or an office, whatever you want to do, just to make it more functional in The Sims, since, we can't have real cars in The Sims yet. But I had kind of a hard time with this layout of the house, because I felt like there needed to be more separation between the actual rooms and the living areas. So this here is the dining room, and I wanted something that was a little more traditional in a way, but I ended up changing this table because I felt like it didn't go, or wasn't looking how I wanted. And I also noticed that like a hunter green was kind of popular at this time too, so I wanted to include the hunted green in the dining room. And I also ended up changing the tile here. It's the same tile, but I wanted it to be a little more neutral, not as pink, since I wanted to have some pink furniture, or like some pink items here and there. Here I am changing out the sofa, because the sofa that I had picked out, it looked a little too modern for this type of style. So I went with the more old-fashioned looking couch there, and side chair. I wish that it came in more of a floral pattern, and the one couch that came with the living, I think, that kind of does. It's not in the right colors, unfortunately. So we'll just have to go with this one and pretend that it has florals on it or something, or like a Native American pink and light blue print on it, because that would have been so perfect. But alas, it's fine. They also, this painting was so perfect. Like, it's the perfect colors. It has cactus on it. It was amazing. I was so happy with that. Now, as I'm recording this, I haven't tested out the house yet, but I will before I upload it to the gallery. So, anything you see here, it might change slightly when I upload it, because, you just never know what works and what doesn't, because I always use the Move Objects cheat for all my builds pretty much. So, you never really know, because some things you get a lot of clearance on and some things you don't. So always a good thing to test your builds out before you upload them, because I know it's a little frustrating for people. They'll be like, I'm really excited to download this build, and then it doesn't work. So I get it. And I always try to test my builds before I upload it too. So yeah. Ended up changing the dining table to this one. I know it's a little small, but it did have the right shape to it. A lot of not Southwestern furniture, but just like 80s furniture that was considered middle class, or more affordable, I guess. They kind of had the very light woods, and they had the rounded edges. So I thought that table was pretty perfect for this type of style. Since there's not really any room for an office in this house, I just put the desk in the living room area, which actually was pretty common. I had a friend in the 90s that had their family desk or computer area in their living room, so that's kind of what I was going for here. And of course, had to add the pink. I totally forgot about this paint with the white border on the top, and I wish I could have used that in my previous build, but that's okay. I think that this paint kind of went with this house a little more, so that's okay. So this is what I would consider the master bedroom, and I mean, it's not very big, but you could make it bigger, I guess, if you wanted to by making the pool a little smaller, but I really wanted the bed to be kind of like inset into like a huge headboard and cabinet type thing. So I placed the bed inside one of the dressers, and what I had to do was I actually had to raise up the dresser a little bit so it would cover the current headboard, because I really wanted a white shiny looking, yeah, there it goes. And I was so happy I found that like Southwestern looking painting, because I felt like that fit really well with the aesthetic of the house. And of course we have to have some fake plants around here and there, and you know, just adding some little decor items in the room area. I wanted to look like the back of the bed matched the dresser that I used in the room, so I literally used the same dresser so that it would look more cohesive. And I have like a turquoise candle in front of the Southwest picture there, so I thought that was pretty cool. I really love this house. It's very nostalgic, and even though I didn't grow up in the 80s, a lot of what happened in the 80s happened in the 90s, so yeah. Now I'm working on the master bath, and in the master bath, if you remember the reference picture, there was like this little floral wallpaper and then like a very light wood vanity area. So that's kind of what I did in here. I have the light wood cabinet with floral wallpaper, and I also add the Hollywood lights in this bathroom in particular. So I really wanted to add like little towels on the side of the cabinet because there was a space there, so I figured why not. But the only way I could do that was to knock out some of the walls next to the cabinet, then place the towels, then add the walls back in. Otherwise, the towels would snap to the wall and it just wouldn't work like how I was thinking. But yeah, so I did this trick in my last 1980s build where I used the Hollywood lights and then I placed the mirrors inside it so it would look like a Hollywood light mirror. So this room here is supposed to be the daughter's room, and as you can tell, it has a lot more color. I wanted it to look very youthful and accurate to what a kid or a teen would have during this time. So I have the turquoise color and the pink and the purples and the greens in here, and I really liked this bed too. I think it kind of reminded me of maybe cartoons that were going on at the time. And yeah, I imagine that a single mom lives here with her daughter, and because that's just kind of what I thought was living here. So she actually has her own ensuite, kind of. The bathroom that is hers that she'll use is also the bathroom that, you know, if you're outside in the pool, you don't want to come inside, you can use the bathroom that's connected to the outside as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking for that, because some of the houses I've been to that were built in the 80s, well, and if they have a pool, they'll usually have a bathroom that's kind of connected to the outside, so you don't have to come inside. So that's the idea for that. I kind of had a hard time figuring out the layout for her room, but it ended up coming together in the end, and I figured out how to fit everything I wanted in there. But yeah, that's pretty much this build, and we're going to be doing some extra little details here and there as I do, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new, and I will see you next week. Next week we're going to be starting on an early 90s home, and I'm pretty excited about it because it is the decade of me. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!